Gaming Randoms here, and I just wanted to talk a little bit. I just feel like ranting right now about the gaming industry as a whole and the road that it's going down. Obviously, no one can see the future, but in my opinion, at least for AAA devs, the future doesn't seem very bright for the most part. Um, the reason I say that is because, I mean, I'm a full-grown adult. I've been gaming since I could hold an NES controller. Um, and back then, you bought a game, you played it, you enjoyed it most of the time, and that was it. No DLC, no nothing. You wanted more content for a game, they released a sequel usually, or not. But yeah, that's how it was. They didn't have like DLC cartridges or anything like that back in the day. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate all DLC. I'm not a fan of day one DLC, and I don't think anyone is, because that's basically just the devs saying, hey, we're selling you a $60 game, but we set our budget so high that we can't get away with just selling a $60 game. We need to basically milk you for everything you have. Um, that's taking it to an extreme, but you get my point. Um, Now, I don't that's my main issue with how like where the gaming industry is going, because nowadays more and more devs are doing it, not just day one DLC, but now we're starting to see microtransactions in AAA titles. And while those microtransactions are very minimal at the moment, like for example, Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat X, whatever, uh, the microtransactions for easy fatalities, or what else? Or even just the day one DLC, for example, with Evolve, they sold you a $60 game. It was a very basic game. I mean, the game itself, it's not a game that's worth $60. I mean, the game, it looks nice. I'm sure it plays great, but the thing is, it from what I've seen of it and from what I've heard from everyone else that's played it, it's basically just basically like a large arena kind of, uh, or it's just a multiplayer game where you have hunters hunting a monster, maybe a couple monsters, who knows. Um, and it's not a super in-depth game. Granted, it does look like fun, and I'm not saying I wouldn't want to play it, but I mean, it, they're selling it. They put their budget way too high, especially considering they actually blatantly said, um, they defended why they were selling, uh, how much was it? I think it was about $60 to $70 worth of day one DLC, and they defended themselves on that, saying that it was because selling the game at $60 wasn't going to allow them to profit with the budget they had for the game. Which that's ridiculous. I mean, the game's not in depth. It's not like it has a super long story or anything, and for them to say that, let's just say, for example, they project that the game sells a million copies. A million copies overall, that's kind of low for a game. Um, and let's just say at the $60 price point, that's $60 million. And I mean, that's a lot of money. But granted, I mean, I know they spent a lot on the game, and then they've got to pay everyone that worked on the game. But anyways, I don't know. Things have to change, because just with that game specifically, I mean, if you wanted everything on day one, you needed to spend over $100, and it wasn't even an in-depth game. Um, which that kind of annoyed me a little when I read about it. And I know this is all old news, but I mean, the reason I'm talking about it is because, that's what's starting to happen in the gaming industry nowadays. You didn't have issues like this back in the day. And granted, yeah, tech was older, but that's no excuse. Indie devs nowadays, there are a lot of indie devs that make good games, and even if they do release DLC for their stuff, it's not like they're holding back content so they can release it day one or a week later or whatever. I mean, they're not taking content out of the game to sell it as DLC. They're making a full game, um, that in a lot of cases, especially nowadays, it's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. I mean, the way that's I mean, how do I put this? um, the way things are going, I think indie devs will definitely end up taking over the industry. Um, Especially considering we have crowdfunding these days. And if you market, like if you go on Kickstarter and you have a good idea, you have a, a visually appealing page, and you're all right with the networking aspect, generally you'll be all right. Um, a lot of people are still willing to pledge money for a project that they think is worth it or something they want to see happen. And I mean, we see proof of that every day. Um, I know, I think it was somewhat recently there was that that Castlevania successor, that went up on Kickstarter. Um, Not successor, well, spiritual successor. I think it was the uh, creator or developer for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, released a Kickstarter for a game that looks very similar to that kind of game. And I mean, it was funded within hours. So, I mean, Crosscode, which is an indie game that I am very excited about. Last I looked, they're projecting that it'll be finished. Um, they're projecting it'll be finished on, I think it said 2016, either first or second quarter. Right now, it is in Steam Early Access. So far, I've played the demo. And I can say that even the demo is very polished. The story seems interesting. It's kind of like one of those top-down, like 16-bitty kind of games, but it is great. It's an action-based combat RPG with some puzzle elements. The strategy to it is great. The story so far seems great. Everything about it's great. I love every aspect of the game, and it's pretty sad when, like, I mean, as I mentioned, graphically the game is simple, but I'm more excited for Crosscode than I have been for pretty much any game this year, uh, which is kind of saying a lot. Um, and I mean, it overall, I don't think things are going to end well for a lot of AAA devs. I mean, we're already seeing a lot of stuff change. Um, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of sad because some devs that were great. Like I loved Sega back in the day. I loved their consoles. I loved Sonic. I love a lot of their stuff. And it was kind of sad the day they stopped. They announced they were going to stop making consoles and just focus on making games. Um, and I mean, I don't know, like stuff like that. Because the Dreamcast was a great console. They made mistakes before that, and that's why they they had to get out of the console business. But the Dreamcast was a good console, so I don't know. I was kind of sad, but I mean, just I don't know. Everything's going downhill nowadays. I don't even know how to really put it fully into words. Um, I mean, just things in the gaming world are going pretty downhill. I mean, there's still great stuff coming out. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I hate every new game that comes out. I actually want to be excited about many new games, but it's getting hard these days. I mean, like, just for example, I mean, it is impossible to get excited about a Call of Duty game or a Battlefield game. Well, Battlefield game is a little different, but they're kind of going the Call of Duty route as far as, releasing a game every year, which I don't know if they're releasing every year, but Call of Duty is. And I mean, it's the same thing every game. Slightly different story, maybe a little bit of a different skin to it, but overall it's the same game. And I don't know, like just and it's not even just Call of Duty that's doing that. It's many games these days. I mean, Assassin's Creed, they've been doing the exact same thing since the first game. Um, there, I'm not going to name them all, but there are many, many games that are doing that, and that's all fine and dandy if they continue to be just as fun, which some of them do. Call of Duty, I don't know. Um, I stopped playing Call of Duty for the most part a long time ago. Um, Shooters always, I mean, when it comes to a shooter, it always will scratch that specific itch occasionally. But I don't know anybody that just wants to sit down and play a shooter all the time, um, especially not Call of Duty. Anyways, um, I didn't make this to shit on games or developers or the industry currently. Um, I don't know, I wanted to rant, I suppose. I don't like what I see. Um, I guess part of what's bringing this on is the other day, or actually, yeah, it was the other day. I decided to sit down and play a couple N64 games, specifically Jet Force Gemini and Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and probably Majora's Mask pretty soon. Um, but I realized, like, even just with Ocarina of Time, I was playing, I was thinking to myself, you know what? This game is actually really in depth for a game. I mean, we're talking, this game is like, in total, it's like a 27. I think on the cartridge, I mean, uh, it, it's a very low amount of memory on these cartridges, and they uh, they managed to pack all this, depth and story and awesomeness into just this cartridge that really doesn't hold a lot of memory. And it's just amazing that, games from over a decade ago are phenomenal to this day. I mean, I can play them and still enjoy them. And then there are games coming out today where I'll play it for 5, 10 minutes and I'm like, what the hell is this? Or beat it once and I'm done with it. I never want to touch it again. Many old games like Mario, I mean, I could I could put in Mario, like pretty much any old Mario or most Marios in general, and play them regardless of whether I've already beaten them or not. Um, I mean, part of that is because Nintendo's a good developer when it comes to software. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm ranting a little too much here. Um, Especially this is getting to about almost 15 minutes. Um, I don't know. Post in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about anything I have said. Uh, definitely, definitely leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Um, and I will see you guys in the next video. This is Gaming Randoms.